This is about defending democracy. This is no longer Democrats versus Republicans. What do you want your kids to believe in? There must be give and take.
This is White Flag with Joe Walsh.
Hey, former Congressman Joe Walsh with you. This is White Flag with Joe Walsh. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, White Flag with Joe Walsh. Follow me on Twitter at Walsh Freedom. Follow these two guys on Twitter as well. I think they're interesting, fascinating, and on the cutting edge of a lot of stuff. Brian and Ed Krassenstein. They are journalists. They are tech entrepreneurs. Brian is at Krassenstein, and Ed is at Ed Krassen. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. I want to start maybe at the end, and then we'll work our way back. You two have a fairly interesting history on Twitter, and you're back on. When did you get back on? Like late 22?
I think it was October, right? October.
It was
of
late
2022.
late October of last year. Yeah.
And I followed you a lot back in the day. We were all brothers in arms because we all just despised Trump and Trumpism, and I still do. But you guys would get such amazing engagement. And I've watched you since you've come back to Twitter. And it seems like it's different. It's a different Ed and Brian. Let's start there. What are you doing? What are you trying to do with this crazy platform?
I think old Ed and Bry on Twitter before we were banned. I think, we dislike Trump. So our plan, what we did was basically to try and get as much information out about Trump as we could. We'd reply to every Trump tweet. Whether we agreed or disagreed, we tried to reply. And I think it kind of created a lot of hate. Trump supporters hated us. They're like, oh, these guys don't care about anything. All they care about is bashing on Trump. And to some degree, I mean, I guess it's true. We do care about a lot of stuff, but we were bashing on Trump constantly. And I think when we came back onto Twitter, Brian and I just had a discussion about how we were going to handle it, how we change what we did. Brian, do you want to maybe cover some of that?
Yeah. So when we came back, I think we wanted to kind of bring people together. Like we realized that it didn't really accomplish much. Like the outrage tweeting that we did back in 2017, 18, and 19, all it did was, I think, it made the left support us. But at the same time, those people were going to support the same things that we believed in anyway, regardless of how outraged they got. And the right, I think it just pushed them further to the right. So they see us, they're like, oh, these guys hate Trump. Why are we going to even engage with them? Why are we going to create a dialogue? So we kind of decided, let's create a dialogue.
What was your goal back then, though? And part of me would argue, like, you had a goal, you wanted to stop Trump. Did you help do that?
So
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, I think our goal was to fact check him and just push back on what he said. And we were able to get our comments up there, like 1 and 2 a lot of times under his posts. I don't know if it helped. I would like to think it did. I think it spread some information that hopefully some people took in and consumed, and maybe it changed some minds. But I don't think it had the impact that we hoped it would have.
Yeah, do you agree with that?
I would. I think, if you were a Trump supporter and we were tweeting this stuff about Trump and, we were outraged about some of the stuff that Trump was doing, I don't think we were able to change your mind because you were already so into Trump. You're already supporting Trump so much. Whereas I think now we look to create a dialogue and try and understand their opinions on things and also give our opinions in a more friendly manner where we're like, okay, but look, what about this? What about these people? What about their perspective on things? What about what this is doing to these people? And I think it helps people understand where some people on the left are coming from that way.
Like, did you, Before I turned on Trump 6 years ago, I mean, back when I was a Tea Party congressman and then I was a right wing radio guy, I mean, I was a divisive guy. And sometimes, plenty of times, I went over the top. But I every night I knew I was kind of adding to the division. But then I didn't care. I just wanted to fucking push what I believed in. When did you guys feel like you were being divisive, or you were just pushing what you believed in?
No, I didn't think we were being divisive. I think we were pushing what we believed in, but I think that if you were on the right, you viewed it as divisive because those views were so counter to your own.
And like when you like mock him for something he says, or when you criticize him for
It's,
something he says, that does create divisiveness because people are going to be like, oh, why are these guys mocking Trump? I support him. So I mean, I don't think it was our intention to do that, but looking back on it, I think some of our tweets definitely did that.
because you guys really did, and I say this as a compliment. You built one of the biggest resistance movements to Trump when you think about it.
Yeah, it's funny. We got labeled that. We never like consider ourselves part of the resistance, but everybody labeled that us.
Yeah.
People labeled us the leaders of the resistance, and like we're like, okay, really?
But you guys didn't think like that was your role.
I wouldn't say so. Would you, Brian?
No, I mean, we were obviously resisting some of the things that Trump was saying. I think we started tweeting just because both of us had pregnant wives during the 2016 election. We're like,
Yeah.
God, we're bringing kids into this world, and Trump's mocking disabled people, and he's saying all this horrible stuff, and people are just buying into it. So I think we just got pissed off about that, and that's why we decided to tweet. People all thought it was because we wanted to like profit or make money or grift or whatever they want to say, but it was just our beliefs, you know.
Is it hard, guys, with Trump, like, and again, politically, like, I come from the right. I think you guys come more from the left. And there's a lot of good and bad, and all politicians are complicated. Is it hard with Trump though, because he is such a unique cat? It's like hard to find the good there and find common ground when you're talking about Trump.
I think so because the way he was, like you said, he's a completely different animal. He was divisive. At least that's the
Yeah,
way I look at it. I mean, he called Democrats, he called the media the enemy of the
yeah,
people. And when somebody views you as the enemy, how are you supposed to respond? Are you supposed to treat them like your best friend? No. Are you supposed to treat them like somebody who's worthy of you explaining your opinion? Probably not. So I think people say it's like a chicken and egg scenario. So people on the right are going to say, "Oh, it wasn't Trump that created divisiveness; it was somebody else. Maybe it was Obama." But either way, Trump was extremely divisive, in my opinion.
my objective before Trump scared me straight and woke me up, my objective was to sow outrage. I knew, like, the more I could get my listeners wound up and inflamed, the more clicks, the better. Did you guys ever, was that ever part of your equation? Like, you're trying to generate outrage. Was that ever part of it, or?
So back before our ban, so this was like 2018. We actually ran a website. It was called Hill Reporter. It was a
I
news site,
remember it. Yeah.
and like that wasn't our objective, but the way media works is that the only way a company is going to survive,
Yeah.
especially these smaller media companies, is to generate clicks. And the best way to generate clicks is to generate outrage. And then people click through, click the ads, and you make an income. And if you don't do that, if you're boring and you're not generating clicks, you're not going to survive. And we gave that up. We hated it. We
Yeah.
realized like this is what's happening. And I think it taught us a lot about like how the media works in general. And that's both sides. It's not just Fox News, but it's CNN too, you know, like it's the entire gamut of the whole media
I
space.
think the internet. I think the internet's what did it. Like
Yeah.
before, we had newspapers, right? And really, the only story that you wanted to generate outrage on was a headline, right? Everything else nobody saw until they bought the paper. But now every single story is the headline because every single story is shared on social media. And the more outrage that that headline can generate, the more it's going to be shared. And the more that it's shared, the more revenue you're going to generate. So media companies today, in the day of the internet, are almost required to generate outrage in order to stay competitive.
Yeah. And it's still this way. This hasn't changed, right?
Right.
So how do we get around that? And I'm thinking, guys, and I don't know where you're on CNN. Like, to me, they do what they do. MSNBC generally is the left. And to me, CNN's been trying to play this thing where kind of try to come sort of down the middle, inform people, kind of be balanced. And I worry that that's really not what America wants.
Well, and they're struggling. I mean, their
They're
ratings are struggling
struggling.
because of that. So they're actually trying to, I think, take the moral high ground.
I'm listening, guys. Keep talking. Keep talking.
Yeah. I think they're trying to take the moral high ground, and they're finding out that that's not working. I think that it's the system. It's not the companies, right? So you have Fox News, you have MSNBC, you have CNN, and they're kind of just they're trying to survive. And the way you survive is to sow outrage and get those clicks. And people only read those headlines on Facebook or Twitter. Most don't even bother to read the story. So they're reading this outrageous headline, and the story might explain, hey, this isn't as bad as
Yeah.
as the headline sounds, but people don't do that. People don't read it. They share that headline.
What's
So,
the
so
answer, Ed? What's the answer then?
like I mean, I was gonna say, I think CNN has always been kind of moderate, at least up
Yeah.
until the Trump period, right?
Yeah.
But Trump, like I said earlier, he accused the media of being the enemy of the people. So people in the media are gonna automatically dislike Trump. So I think that created a bias at CNN, an anti-Trump bias, and I don't know if it created like a liberal or conservative bias. It just created an anti-Trump bias for the most part. So what was your question? I'm sorry.
How is there a way? Is there a solution to this? Like, Ed and Brian, I think that the average person, and correct me if you disagree, the average person out there doesn't want to really be informed. They want their views validated. So they go to media and social media outlets that will validate what they believe in, MSNBC or Fox. Do you agree with that? Or do you think,
I think that probably a good portion of Americans are like that. I mean, I try to watch everything. I think it's important to understand where the other side's coming from. I mean, I watch Tucker Carlson every now and then. I watch
yeah,
Hannity because I just want to know like what are they telling people and why are they thinking these things? And so that when you meet somebody that has a countering opinion, you can understand where they're getting their information from and why they believe what they believe. And I think that's important. And if you're on the right, you should be watching MSNBC sometimes and seeing what they're saying.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I think it's the narrative, right? So you can take a set of facts, leave out certain facts, and create your own narrative. And I think
completely.
Fox News does that. I think MSNBC does it. I think CNN does it in certain instances as well. And I don't know. I don't know what the solution to that really is.
So you guys come back, Elon buys Twitter, you guys come back onto Twitter. Did you two talk? Did you make a conscious decision? Damn it, we ain't going to do that thing. We're going to have a different approach.
Yeah, so actually the first I think like 2 weeks we came back, we're like, let's do a video cast or a podcast
Yeah.
and have some guests from the right on, since like we're known as these extreme left people to some on the right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
our first guest was actually Carpe Donktum. And if you know who he is, he's the memester who Trump invited to the White House.
Yeah.
And back in I think it was 2017 or 18, we actually helped get him banned on Twitter.
Oh,
So we're like, this
wow.
would be the perfect guest.
Yeah.
And what we want to do is just have him on and don't really talk politics, just talk about life, like our commonalities. Like he has a son, he likes baseball. So
Yeah.
we did that and it went really well. Like I feel like we'd be friends if we met in real life, you know?
And prior to having him on, he probably didn't think real highly of you two.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure he was pretty angry that
Yeah,
he did eventually come back. Uh, he got unbanned like we did,
yeah.
but it was an interesting conversation, and I think we found a lot of things we agreed on. And I still talk to him every now and then, and we have vastly different political opinions, but I think we appreciate each other as human beings more so than we did in the past.
Is this hard, Ed? You guys have been doing this now 6 months or so. This different approach. Is it hard? Is it
I'd
hard?
say it's easier. I mean,
Really?
like it's easier because you don't have as much hatred. Like
Got
I
it.
feel like when you're willing to listen to other people's opinions, I think people view you as somebody that actually cares about what they think rather than somebody who's trying to forcefully change their opinion. And I think none of us want to have our opinions forced upon us. I don't think any of us would say somebody else can change our opinion by, just yelling at us and telling us what we should believe. It's rooted in understanding each other and understanding where we come from. Like if you believe something, I want to know why you believe it. I want to know what makes you believe that, what got you to that point. And I think if we can better understand each other and better understand ourselves and how we come to these ideas and these opinions, I think it's better for America than just one side yelling at the other side how they should believe something.
Ed, that's fucking music to my ears. But I ask this because, like, again, I come from the right, and the minute I turned on Trump, I lost my right following. And then as I'm in this space trying to get people to listen to each other, and I mean, I'll get shit from both sides. No, but like I sat down with Dinesh D'Souza a month ago, and I swear everybody on the left side of my following said, "Fuck it, Joe, don't sit down with that ass." And they wouldn't listen. You guys have to get some of that abuse from your left flank.
Yeah, we were on Tim Pool, like one of the
Yeah.
first, like right when we got on Twitter, we went on Tim Pool's show, and it was kind of the same thing. Like a lot of people on the left criticize us. Why would you go on that neo-Nazi show? People would say, it's like I think it's good. Like so, these right wingers, all they do is listen to Tim Pool, and
Yeah.
all they hear is his opinions, and it just reinforces their views in the world. Why not let them know our views too? Why not share our views
So
with
you were
his
able to
listeners?
go on Tim Pool's show and voice your views.
Yeah, and it's funny because Tim was like, you're the first people on the left to agree to come on our show, and I think people are afraid to do that because they know that they're gonna have some tough questions asked, they're gonna have some attacks made toward them, they're gonna be put in a situation where three or four people are all kind of against them, and it's pretty intimidating. I guess I had Brian by my side, so kind of even things out a little bit.
Is it fair to say that even pre and old and new, Ed and Brian, your following is generally left of center, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would say
I
so.
think that would be accurate.
Is it
It's definitely left to center because of that old following, right?
exactly? And is it accurate? Is it? Have you lost? Have the new Brian and Ed lost followers? Are you growing? Are you hanging? What's it look like?
It's hard to say because Twitter's been highly removing bots. They've been removing a ton of bots, so it's really hard to say.
Yeah,
Am I organically losing these, or is it just Twitter removing bots and accounts that have been inactive? So it's really hard to tell. I do know sometimes I make a tweet, and that tweet results in me losing followers, and
yeah.
it's usually a tweet that might like side slightly with the right, or might not. Like might be like, okay, this is okay, but this, and people on the left like no, you can't give an inch to the people on the right, and then you lose some followers there, but it's not like a concerning in number like I'm saying, oh, I'm going to lose all my followers. That's not going to happen.
Brian, what's your thought? Does your gut tell you that you've lost followers on the left?
Uh, I, I think probably some people on the far left have probably unfollowed me. Like I don't really concern myself with followers too much. Like I know a lot of people are like, oh, I want to get so many followers. It's
Yeah.
gonna, but like I don't really pay too much attention to that. I do know that like when I make certain tweets, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna lose followers making this tweet, but I'm not gonna not make a tweet because I think I'm gonna lose followers. That's not like what I'm doing this for.
This is Thursday. This podcast will be released tomorrow, Friday, but today, Thursday, longtime Christian evangelical leader, Pat Robertson, died. And Brian, I read what you wrote, one of your long form tweets, because, and this happens on both sides, when a well-known figure dies, people on the other side will go after him. And you kind of said, "Hey, stop. And boy, I read through a bunch of the comments. You got pounded.
Yeah, no, and that was one of the tweets. I knew I was going to lose followers making that. I think it was the right thing to say, and I basically just said like, this guy's been alive for 93 years. You had plenty of time to criticize him. You don't have to criticize him on the day he dies, or it's not even criticize. I mean, people were saying, "Oh, I hope he's in hell. I hope
Yeah.
it was just like brutal." And if you're his family, hearing this, like it's not what they want to hear. And I understand that people think he hurt people with things he's said in the past, but like save it for later, or at least you could have said it back when he was alive.
And do you too, when you post something like that, Brian, and Ed, when you post something like that, and I've noticed, and I'm trying to do more of it too, more thoughtful, long form pieces on Twitter, and you try to engage your folks, like think about this or think about that. Do you generally try to respond to as many as you can?
I
Yeah,
usually, I usually pick some people. Usually, I like Twitter now allows subscribers. So if those who subscribe to me, I try to respond
Yeah.
to, and then I pick some more. Like if it's somebody with something I completely disagree with, I'll respond. Or if it's something that I completely agree with, I'll respond. But like we get so many comments on our posts, it's hard to pick and
You
choose
can't.
sometimes.
Yeah. Um, uh, I noticed, Brian, one guy commented to you, and it just made me laugh. He said, "Dude, stop," on your Pat Robertson piece. He said, "Dude, stop trying to be liked by everyone." For some reason, that cracked me up. Because I get a lot of that response. Like, and people will call you two grifters, and I get called a grifter because of what you're trying to do now. And I want to scream. There's not a lot of money in trying to do this.
well, it's funny because if I wanted to be liked by everyone, or I didn't want to get the hate, I would keep sticking to my left leaning biases,
Yeah.
because most of my followers are to the left. So actually saying something that's kind of more catering towards the right is going to get me a lot more hate than actually posting something like.
What's the goal, Ed, Brian? What's the goal? What are you trying to do? What?
I I think it would be to say I think our goal would be to try and bring people together. At least now that's our goal.
Yeah.
At the same time, I also still dislike Donald Trump. I still feel like news about him needs to go out. There's a lot of people who put out a lot of false narratives and stuff about him. I do feel kind of responsible to correct those people,
Yeah.
but I want to do it more in a way that kind of doesn't doesn't create this division that we've seen so for the last what, like 6 7 years.
Yeah,
Brian, add to that.
yeah, and I think I'm at least going to continue to be pushing for left of center policies. I'm not going to change what I support, but I think we can do it in a way that isn't so, I guess, outrageous, right? You can do it with a conversation and dialogue rather than outrage and hate. Like it's not necessary. Like I'd rather talk to people and explain why I think these policies will work and get their feedback if they disagree, than just say, "Hey, I'm right, you're wrong. Now let's vote left."
Like the gun argument. Like I feel like with the
Yeah.
gun argument, instead of saying, "Oh no, get rid of the Second Amendment," your gun, you don't deserve to own your guns. I think how I feel is, universal background checks. Maybe take assault weapons, and by assault weapons I mean a defined list of weapons, or
Yeah.
how they act. I know a lot of people on the right say, "How do you define an
Yeah.
assault weapon?"
Yeah.
But I mean, like, have a list, and maybe you can put the same restrictions on them as you do on short-barreled rifles, which have essentially been banned since 1913. And by banned, I mean highly regulated, where you need to jump through hoops to get one. why shouldn't an AR-15 fall in that category? You know, and ask that question and get response, and then somebody might say, oh, that's against the Second Amendment. I'll say no, but I mean, we've been doing this for 110 years, and the Supreme Court's never overturned it. No court's ever overturned it. So that, I mean, that's your opinion that it's against the Second Amendment, but the law hasn't dictated that it is.
It's interesting, Ed, and I'm a very big gun guy, and that leads me to this other question that I'm guilty of sometimes, trying to do the same thing you're doing. Whereas the old Joe Walsh wanted outrage, the new Joe Walsh in this space of trying to get people to listen to me and bring people together, sometimes I find myself hesitating to put out a tweet where my real views are still shown. Like I'm still kind of a Tea Party libertarian guy, and my audience has become more leftist because they love what I'm doing against Trump. So sometimes I'm afraid of putting out "Don't touch my guns" or kind of a tweet because I don't want to anger my new audience. Do you guys ever feel that way?
I think
I
so.
would say not since we've come back. I think we made the conscious decision.
Yeah.
Like, who cares? Who cares about
I mean,
politics?
I still feel that way, but I don't really care. I feel like,
Yeah.
okay, this tweet's gonna anger my followers, but it doesn't really bother me anymore. But I mean, like, I'm with you there. Like, I think you should have that right to give your
Yeah.
opinion. But at the same time, when you give that opinion, it's going to create outrage just because you have an opinion on something, and that's not how it should be. It should be like, we just debate it. Like, okay, you believe this, and I believe that. What do you think? Maybe we could compromise. Maybe there's some middle ground that could be reached where everybody would kind of say, okay, this actually makes sense.
Well, and I think that is a good point. And what's happening is you're getting stuck in this box.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens on social media to pretty much everybody. And it's not just politics. If you like
Yeah.
Bitcoin or, like
Yeah.
anything, you get stuck in a certain box. And if you tweet outside that box, you're afraid that you're going to lose followers. And I think the politicians get stuck in boxes too,
Yeah.
in that they don't want to anger the people that support them. If they say, if Joe Biden came out and said, I don't support a assault rifles ban, you're going to have left leaning
Yeah.
people start attacking him too. So it's these boxes, and everybody's afraid to act outside of their box.
Yeah, and like, even it doesn't have to be politics. Like you said, it could be gaming, it could be
Yeah.
sports. Like, maybe, I run a Twitter account that's all Eagles fans, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I put out a post. Oh, the Cowboys have a really good shot this year. I'm going to probably lose followers and have all this outrage, right?
Totally. Like Gavin Newsom this morning put out that tweet about a 28th Amendment to go after these 4 gun reforms. And I looked at it and right away I said, respectfully, Governor, fuck no. But I was afraid initially to put out a tweet. But then I tried to put out a respectfully, Governor, no. But yeah, you got to get over that, and just because you two still are what you believe, and you never want to lose that.
And I think for the most part, your followers are going to be like, if you're respectful about it, and like you said, respectfully, Governor, no.
Yeah.
I think even people on the left who follow you are going to be, okay, well, that was a good way of putting it. I don't agree with him, but I'm not going to, unfollow him because I believe that, shares some of the same ideologies as me. He shares some of the same morals as me. We're not going to agree on everything. Nobody agrees on everything.
Yeah, and I found, Brian and Ed, that you got to kind of pay your dues. Like I've been doing this now 5 years, and when I first came out, the left clearly didn't believe. They thought I was just Tea Party Joe Walsh now is going to help Joe Biden. So I had to like take my lumps and prove it after a few years. And Ed, that's a great point, because now when I put out something that my left followers don't like, because I've been doing it for a few years, they're much more respectful in how they respond.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, that tweet's not going to get you left followers, but it might not
No.
lose you too many either. So in the long run, I think people will stick by your side just because they realize that you have some insightful tweets, and you maybe you can change your opinion on some things.
It's kind of like that. The group, and you guys were great the other week listening to the spaces we had with Starts With Us, but they always hammer home that you don't have to give up your beliefs to engage the other side. Duh. Hey, and by the way, if you want to follow Starts With Us, follow them on Twitter at
Yeah,
Starts
I
With
love
Us.
what they've been doing.
They're
They've
great,
been doing
great,
some great
great
stuff.
stuff. Great group, Ed, and they're growing. And sign up for their free newsletter, startswith.us. One final topic for you two, and I'm just going to say it disrespectfully, not to you two, and then just take it away and beat me up. I Look, freak. I believe in freedom, free country. Elon Musk can buy Twitter. It's his company. He can do whatever the heck he wants. I think he's a dishonest guy. I think he's a baby. And it seems like he's always just going after the right and spreading conspiracies. I wish he were more honest about what he is politically. What are you? And so that as a leaping ground, Ed and Brian, give me your thoughts on Elon and what he's doing.
Yeah, like I feel like he's like I feel like he has more conservative views than liberal views, at least as of late. I don't think he's like full conservative. I think he's done a lot that I think the left would, say this was something good, like Tesla, everything he's done with Tesla, SpaceX.
You
I think
don't
that
think he's MAGA?
I don't think he's
No.
I don't think he likes Trump. I don't think he's a
Yeah,
Trumper.
agreed.
Uh, I think he likes DeSantis though, and he voted for Biden both times. At least that's
Yeah.
what he claims.
Yeah.
But I think he has some strong opinions, and personally, I feel like some of his opinions are ill informed. I feel like he's busy with so much stuff. Like maybe he hasn't looked into certain things
Yeah.
with a full point of view, and we've actually argued with him on several things
I've seen that.
when it
Yeah.
comes to politics. It's like we go back and forth, and I think Brian's done that quite a bit with him as well. I think, I don't know what the solution to Twitter is. I do think Elon's solution is better than Jack Dorsey's, though.
How so? Explain that.
Well, I don't like the idea of so Twitter obviously had more left leaning
Yeah.
people working for
Yes.
them, right? And Jack
Yeah.
Dorsey was more left leaning as well. So if they're removing posts, if they're removing what they call misinformation, it's going to be biased, or at least it's going to seem biased, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe you don't think it's biased, but it's to right wingers, it's going to definitely seem biased, and you're going to feel like they're being biased.
Yep.
Where Elon, he's conservative, but I think the way he's running Twitter ultimately will remove the speculation that he's using Twitter and its policies to target people on the left.
I agree with that, Ed. I think in Elon's Twitter, there is more. I'm a free speech absolutist. There is more speech allowed. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, and like, although free speech isn't like afforded to private companies, and
Right.
like Twitter, if they wanted to ban anybody, they could do it as long as they weren't doing it to like in a prejudiced way, right? But I do think it's important that Twitter, as kind of this de facto town square of the internet, I think it's
Yeah.
important that most speech is protected. Uh, I understand people saying, "Oh, this hate speech," but I'm not talking about hate speech. And I think that Twitter can use algorithms as well as a blue check to kind of de-amplify content that is considered hate speech, or most people think would be considered hate speech.
Yeah.
I think there's solutions. I don't think we're there yet. I think there's a long road ahead, but I think there are solutions.
And community notes, I think, is a decent start. It's far from being perfect. Like
Yeah.
it's not working like you hope it would work in the long run, because there's just not. I see a lot of misinformation that's not community note. I see a lot of misinformation that people add a note to, but it doesn't actually get approved. So
Yeah.
the system definitely needs to be worked out. But I think that is a better way of targeting misinformation and correcting misinformation than simply removing it from the platform. And Elon says freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. And I actually like that. I think, freedom of speech is okay, but that doesn't mean a million people are going to see that speech.
Right.
If
right.
you're putting out stuff that's hateful, it's going to, and if it's marked hateful by the community, then maybe no one would see it. Maybe you'll be the only one who sees it.
So you two don't think and I don't know, there's nothing malicious on his part. As you said, Ed, when it comes to shit he says, maybe he does have a million things going at once, and sometimes he'll just jump into Paul
I mean,
Pelosi was having an affair with this guy who attacked him and
I
stuff like that.
I think that more than anything, he's just trying to get people to react
Ah,
and get engagement. And I think that it's a horrible way to go about it because you are spreading misinformation or conspiracy theories.
yeah,
I'm not saying he doesn't believe what he posts,
yeah,
but I think he posts it in a way that he's not saying, I believe this. He's kind of trying to generate conversation around the topic. If you see a lot of his replies, he's not saying things factually.
yeah.
He's kind of retweeting things and speaking to them and asking for conversations.
And
Give me a
I don't think it's malicious so much as he just wants to, like Brian said, get the conversation out there. But I don't think he's acting maliciously. I think he does have a goal of making Twitter this free speech platform, and I don't think his goal with Twitter is to make a ton of money. I think he genuinely believes that what he's doing is good for humanity. And I mean, I don't think a lot of people agree with that. And a lot of people probably have different views on what's good for humanity. But I think in his mind, I think with a lot of his companies, he's doing what he believes
yeah.
is good for humanity. But I mean, I don't agree 100% with what he's doing.
No, and I don't. But again, free country. He's free to do what he wants. Final question, guys, on Twitter, kind of a two-part question. And both answer this. Do you worry that Twitter might become an exclusively right-wing platform? And what do you think the future of Twitter is?
I think there's a risk that it could, but I don't think Musk is going to allow that. And by
Okay.
not allow that, I think he's going to make sure he pushes both sides.
Yeah.
If he gets the feeling that it's becoming that, I think he's going to kind of shift his philosophy a little bit. I, I think it's hard because it's hard for that to happen because where is the left going to go? Like you
Yeah.
have all these
Yeah.
alternatives, and there are good alternatives, but what happens is that they can't reach the critical mass. They
Right.
fizzle out. Those first 2 months of like whether it's Mastodon or Post or Tribal, you have this burst of activity,
Yeah.
and then 2 or 3 months down, everybody comes back to Twitter. So I don't think it's going to happen.
Ed, weigh in.
No, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I think there's a possibility, but it's a very small possibility. And like Brian said, I don't think Elon's goal was to create a right wing, echo chamber. I don't
You
think.
don't? Okay.
No, I mean, he's criticized Truth Social as being a right wing echo chamber. I don't think that's his goal. I think his goal is to make it an open platform. But I do think more right wing people are attracted to Twitter right now than left wing people. So
Yeah.
I imagine that over the long run, he's going to be, he'll try and do something. I think he should be less political when he makes tweets.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that helps him, right? I think it's just something he can't help. Like he's like,
Okay.
oh, I'm going to do this, or it's just like, this is funny. I'm going to post this.
Yeah.
But I don't think he should be doing that. If I was him, I certainly wouldn't. As Twitter just got done being accused of being left leaning and biased to
Yeah.
the left,
Yeah.
why should the CEO
Makes
be
no sense.
showing that he's biased to the right? It's just.
My final question I ask everybody, and you two are both public figures. What's one thing you wish people understood about you?
I would say like we get this label that we're grifters or we're doing this for the money, and like we haven't made any money in any of this. I think we
Yeah.
made a few $1,000s. We actually donated it. We wrote a book.
Subscribers. We're making a few
Subscribers, yeah.
$100 a
So
month.
so now we are because of subscribers. But other than that,
Ed?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you knew us like outside of Twitter, even during the Trump period,
Yeah.
we do genuinely get along with everybody. Like I'd say 70% of my
Yeah.
better friends down here in South Florida are Trump supporters. And I mean, we party together, we take our
Yeah.
kids to trick or treating together, and we joke about it, But like on Twitter, I feel it's hard to like sarcasm doesn't work through
No.
tweets. Just stuff that you're saying like that I might joke about with a friend comes off as a serious tweet, like I'm attacking somebody if I just type it in words. So
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I really like Twitter Spaces. It kind of gives you, it's more personable than just a text tweet. not quite as personal
Yeah.
as meeting somebody in person or, doing a Zoom call or something. But it's definitely more personal than just typing something on a computer screen.
You become and I know this because I'm the same way. When you become a public person and you put yourself out there, you become a caricature, period. And
Yep.
then you're right. When people get to know you, like you and I, you'd watch, except you're an Eagles fan. That's something. But yeah, you're just regular guys. You're regular people. But you become these crazy caricatures when you become a public person. Brian and Ed Krassenstein, follow them on Twitter. Subscribe to their stuff. They are. I'm going to say this. I find you two both fascinating, interesting. You're both young. And I think like we're on a battlefield right now politically, and people don't want to get off the battlefield and kind of break bread with the other side. But I think increasingly they are. And that's where I want to be. And I think you guys are doing the same thing. And I think you guys can be really valuable. So keep doing what you're doing, guys. Thanks.
Yeah, that's where we want to be. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you for listening. Remember to listen, share, and follow White Flag with Joe Walsh on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere great podcasts are found. And be sure to leave a 5-star review. This has been White Flag with Joe Walsh.